President of the United States was an FBI informant. I consider that to be gigantic news. And I'm just curious, have we reached out to the FBI, to Kash Patel, to confirm whether the president was at any time an FBI informant? I only say that because the Speaker of the House obviously gets significant briefings. He gets briefings that we do not get as regular members. And so I think this is something that we need to hear definitively. Before Kash Patel comes, we should clear up. Maybe that we should send a letter to him to find out if the president was an informant. And if he was an informant, is that because he was working with the FBI after he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? Did he turn because he got caught with Jeffrey Epstein? You know, when you're an FBI informant, there are lots of questions about how you became an FBI informant. And then how long was he an FBI informant? When did his service to the FBI stop, being a member of the deep state? When did he stop doing that? I mean, look, if a regular member had said this, I would discount it. But the Speaker of the House is the one who said it. And then he said afterwards, well, I may have misspoken.
This may look like another partisan exchange, but it's actually a stress test of institutional responsibility. What's really being tested here is whether those in power can casually invoke federal authority without accountability. When leadership blurs the line between allegation and fact, it raises broader questions about trust in democratic systems and the weaponization of information. In this video, we'll break down how one claim ripples far beyond the individuals involved and what it reveals about the fragility of institutional credibility.
Who seeks recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up on a little bit of what the ranking member was discussing, there was a significant event this week in which this committee has jurisdiction over. The Speaker of the House, the third highest ranking U.S. official, third in line to be the president, looked into the TV cameras and told us that the current president of the United States was an FBI informant. I consider that to be gigantic news. And I'm just curious, have we reached out to the FBI, to Kash Patel, to confirm whether the president was at any time an FBI informant? I only say that because the Speaker of the House obviously gets significant briefings. He gets briefings that we do not get as regular members. And so I think this is something that we need to hear definitively. Before Kash Patel comes, we should clear up. Maybe that we should send a letter to him to find out if the president was an informant. And if he was an informant, is that because he was working with the FBI after he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? Did he turn because he got caught with Jeffrey Epstein? When you're an FBI informant, there are lots of questions about how you became an FBI informant. And then how long was he an FBI informant? When did his service to the FBI stop, being a member of the deep state? When did he stop doing that? I mean, look, if a regular member had said this, I would discount it. But the Speaker of the House is the one who said it. And then he said afterwards, well, I may have misspoke. Well, what was his misspeak? Instead of informant, did he mean agent? I mean, what is the misspeak for informant? I mean, I don't know another word that we use when we're describing an FBI agent or FBI informant or undercover. I mean, what was the misspeak here? And if he was lying then, is he lying now? I'm just confused. Perhaps maybe the Speaker should come to our committee and tell us what he meant when he said that. It's just...
Point of order?
I'm still speaking.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm still speaking.
Is there a bill or an amendment on the floor?
I strike the last word. I'm allowed to finish my...
Gentleman from Florida has the time. He's speaking, I think he's speaking about the bill. Well, he's not really speaking about the bill, but he's recognized to speak about the bill.
Well, he's just been interrupted for about 30 seconds. I'd ask that it be added back onto his...
Can we move to restore his time? That was a completely improper interjection.
Time to stop. We'll give him plenty of time. I'm usually good about that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your indulgence. And I'm only bringing it up, again, because this committee is the committee of jurisdiction over the FBI. And I don't think in the history of this country we've had a Speaker of the House say the president was an FBI informant. That's a dual role if I ever heard one. And so I just think we have questions, Mr. Chairman, and on a bipartisan basis. Maybe the answer is no, he wasn't an FBI informant, and that's fine if the answer is no. I just think we need to hear from the FBI. The Speaker has confused the American people whether Trump was working with the FBI against Jeffrey Epstein because he had information about Jeffrey Epstein because he was there for a long period of time and then got turned maybe by the FBI. I mean, did Trump ever go undercover? I mean, these are questions that the Speaker has raised. By the way, President going undercover would be interesting. But these are questions that he's raised. That is not a misspeak. There is not another adjective or verb for FBI informant, right? I understand the president kicked him out of his club. That doesn't make you an FBI informant. So I think we need to get to the bottom of that.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
Just to add on to that, in 2002, the president said that he was aware that Jeffrey Epstein likes girls on the younger side. In 2003, he provided a birthday card with the shape of a woman, his clear signature for anyone who actually looks at it, and references a secret. In 2004, the FBI initiated an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I would like for this committee to request from the FBI the opening document, the report of investigation that would have initiated the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein in 2004, because I think we should know how that investigation began. We know that President Trump had a falling out with Jeffrey Epstein around that time. Was it President Trump who provided the FBI with the information that caused this investigation to be opened? This committee deserves to know that. I yield back.
What we just witnessed inside that hearing room was not a stray comment or an offhand jab. It was a moment that stopped the room cold. When Congressman Jared Moskowitz leaned into the microphone and asked, plainly, whether the Speaker of the House had falsely accused a former president of being an FBI informant, the air shifted. The question was not rhetorical. It was surgical. And it cut straight to the heart of credibility, power, and the dangerous ease with which explosive claims are now injected into the American bloodstream. This was not a backbencher speculating on cable news. Moskowitz reminded everyone that the Speaker of the House is third in line to the presidency, a figure with access to classified briefings and information denied to most members of Congress. When such a person looks directly into a camera and declares that a sitting or former president secretly cooperated with federal law enforcement, that is not gossip. That is an allegation with institutional weight. And when that same speaker later shrugs it off as a misspeak, the damage is already done. Moskowitz did not let that slide. He asked the question that matters most in a functioning democracy. If this was untrue, why was it said at all? And if it was true, why hasn't the American public been told clearly, transparently, and officially? His words exposed a growing problem in Washington, a place where accountability is often replaced by ambiguity, and where clarification arrives only after confusion has already served its political purpose. The exchange revealed something deeper than partisan theater. It exposed how casually the authority of Congress is now used to plant doubt, suspicion, and narrative chaos. Words like informant are not abstract. They carry legal, historical, and moral implications. There is no harmless synonym, no innocent substitute. Moskowitz understood that, and he forced the room to confront it. What exactly was meant, and why has no one been compelled to answer? As the interruption unfolded, as time was paused and restored, the scene itself became symbolic. A lawmaker attempting to finish a line of questioning was repeatedly disrupted, not by facts, but by procedure. That is Washington in miniature. Substance colliding with process. Truth slowed down by rules that are selectively enforced. Yet Moskowitz persisted, returning again to the core issue. This committee has jurisdiction over the FBI, and the silence from federal leadership is itself a statement. Then came the timeline. Not speculation, but dates. Public remarks from years past, a falling out. An investigation initiated. Questions that naturally arise when political power, personal history, and federal action intersect. Moskowitz did not claim answers. He demanded records. He asked for the opening document that launched a federal investigation, arguing that transparency is not optional when the stakes are this high. That insistence matters, because democracies do not collapse only through force. They erode when institutions refuse to explain themselves. What this moment reveals is a system struggling with its own credibility. On one side, sweeping accusations are made from positions of immense authority. On the other, there is reluctance or refusal to verify, correct, or clarify. That gap is where public trust goes to die. Americans are left to choose between believing nothing or believing everything, and neither is healthy. Leadership is supposed to narrow that gap, not widen it. This hearing was not about relitigating the past. It was about whether words spoken at the highest levels still mean something, whether Congress is willing to demand clarity from its own leaders, and whether federal institutions understand that silence, too, can be corrosive. When serious claims are floated and then abandoned without explanation, the message sent is simple and dangerous. Truth is optional and accountability is negotiable. Moskowitz's closing demand was modest by any reasonable standard. If the answer is no, say so. If the claim was false, correct it clearly. If there is documentation, release it. That is not radical. That is governance. Yet the very fact that such a request feels extraordinary tells us how far expectations have fallen. In moments like this, the real divide is not left versus right. It is between those who believe power must be explained and those who are comfortable letting it speak without consequence. History shows us that democracies survive not because leaders are flawless, but because institutions insist on truth even when it is inconvenient. Tonight's exchange will not dominate headlines for long. It will be replaced by the next outrage, the next clip, the next distraction. But its significance lingers, because it shows us how fragile trust becomes when clarity is treated as optional and words are deployed like weapons without responsibility. The American system was designed to withstand disagreement, conflict, even scandal. What it cannot withstand is indifference to truth. If leaders can accuse, retreat, and move on without explanation, then oversight becomes theater and justice becomes branding. That is why moments like this matter. Not because of who was named, but because of what was demanded. Answers, records, accountability. And that is why we are here. Support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.